Okay, we've completed our Lucky Dog character, and he is saved in specific layers as symbols. Since he was completed, I got rid of the drawing layer, the JPEG that I based him on. I don't need it anymore. And I've also dragged down a guideline from the ruler and put it through the heel there to show where his foot is going to be resting on the floor. When you create a walk cycle, that's what we're about to do, there are four main poses to a walk cycle. And here they are. The first one is the contact pose. The contact pose is when the leading leg, on the leading leg, the heel is striking the floor. And on the other leg, the foot is bent. All right, but both legs are straight. The next pose is the recoil pose. This is when that leading foot has gone flat and the knee is bent. And then on the other leg, the knee is bending and that foot is starting to rise up. So you can see here we are there, and then the foot goes flat and the knee bends and the other leg bends. Okay. After the recoil pose comes the passing pose, and this is when the back leg starts to, or the trailing leg starts to cross over the leading leg, and it's going to take the lead. And so what was the leading leg is straight up and down, and the leg is flat. So it's bent there, and then the leg straightens, and then this trailing leg starts to go forward, starts to pass. And then there's the high point, where what was the leading leg is now the trailing leg, and it's pushing, the body is pushing up, and the passing, that what was the trailing leg has passed, and it's now become the leading leg, and it's about to start it all over and start with the contact pose again on the opposite side. Okay, so it's those four main poses that we're going to create. Contact, recoil, passing, and high point. Okay, these four poses right here. We're going to create those. That's the first step in creating the walk cycle. All right, so contact is first. So we need to take Lucky Dog and put him in that contact position. In fact, I can just kind of, I might keep this here as a guide. I might shrink it so that it doesn't take up so much screen real estate there. Okay. All right, that's what I want him to look like. So I'll put this down here. Okay, so I'll start with the arms, and I'm going to get the top arm. Let's see, there it is right there. And I'm going to rotate it. I'll get the free transform tool, and since I moved the rotation point to the shoulder, it's going to rotate correctly. I'm going to rotate this back a little bit. Okay, not to the farthest position yet, but about maybe where his hand seems to be, right behind his bum there. Okay, and then the back arm, I'm going to rotate that forward so that his arms are separated to that position there. Okay, then I'm going to take the top thigh, I'm going to hold down the shift key and also get the top shin, top toes, and top heel. I'm going to get, oops, let's see, there we go. Okay, I got those four layers, and the quickest way for me to do this is, since I have all these four layers and symbols selected, there's my transformation point right there. With the transform tool selected, I'll just press on this transformation point and move it to the hip area, and that way I can rotate them all like that. That's really the quickest way to do it, like so. and I rotated it to where his heel is striking the ground. Okay, so his leg is in position. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the back, shin, thigh, toes, and heel. I'll select those. I'll get the transform tool. I'll move this transformation point to the other hip, and I'll rotate it back like so. And let's see, I might move it up just a little bit back. Now the only thing I have to adjust is the toes there. The toes need to be rotated flat, because obviously his foot's not going to go through the floor. So I'll rotate that flat like so, and there it is. That is that's the contact pose, and you'll see that's frame 1. Everything there is the contact pose. All right, so we've done that. It's pretty easy. All right, now the next pose is the recoil pose, and that's where the character impacts the ground, and it's also the lowest point of the walk cycle. The arms are going to be farthest from the body, a little bit further than they are now. The front foot is going to be flat against the ground, the leading foot, and the rear foot's going to rise above the ground, and the leading heel is going to be centered beneath the hips. So to get started on all of this, we need to create a frame for the next pose. We don't want to mess up this pose. That's frame 1. So I'm going to go here to frame 2. I'm going to press up here and drag down all the way down to every layer, and I'll hit my function key at the top of my keyboard, the F6 key. And now I've created keyframes in frame 2 for every symbol. Okay, so right now frame 1 and frame 2 are identical, but I got to make sure I'm on frame 2 so that the changes won't affect frame 1. All right, first thing I'll do is the easier thing. I'll just rotate the arms further out. So I'll click on the top arm, and not a huge amount, but I'll rotate it further out. I'll get the back arm, rotate, oops, didn't mean to do that. Rotate the back arm further out. Okay. Oh, also, I will want to rotate the tail up, because the body is actually going to impact the ground and it's going to go down. And in opposition to the body going down, the tail will go up. Okay. All right, now the foot's going to go flat, so I will hold down the shift key and get, well, actually, I'll just do it here in the layers. Toes and heel. I've got both of those. I want to rotate those flat. Easiest thing to do is move the transformation point and rotate that flat. Now the leg's going to straighten, and the heel is going to be centered about halfway through the body. So I also have to move those foot pieces to the left to where the heel is more centered. Okay. Now, of course, the leg is not correct, so I've got to adjust that. I'm going to get the shin and rotate it down like so. And this thigh, I'll rotate it up just a little bit. And let's see, maybe I'll move this. And you can make little adjustments. I'm using the arrow key to make little adjustments. I rotate this a little more. Maybe a little less. Okay, now I want to zoom in a little bit so I can make some tweaks here. Okay, I'm good, and I can scrub the timeline. I can go back to frame 1, frame 2, and I can see that it'll help if my feet are lower. So I'm gonna, or my foot is lower. I'm gonna lower this back down to that blue guideline. Yeah, that's good. Okay, that gives me room to move this shin down. Okay. I want to also rotate this hip up a little more. Okay. All right, there we go. I can get inside. I can edit this top shin symbol and try to bring that down a little bit so it's not quite, so that line doesn't go in so far. And I can nudge pieces a little bit until they seem to fit better. Okay, there we go. So if I scrub back and forth between 1 and 2, that looks pretty good. Okay, now so that's the leading leg. All right, now the rear leg is going to rotate up. So I'm going to let's see. I'll get the back shin, back thigh, back toes, back heel. I'll get the transform tool. I'll move the rotation point up. I'll rotate it up a little, about to this. Yeah, this will take some more adjustment. I'm going to rotate it up, but this is definitely going to take some work. Okay, because I have to bend this leg and it's not bent right now. So what I have to do is bend the thigh, which I can barely see. I trust that I've got it because I've selected it in the window there. So I'm going to rotate this down because it's going to be a bent leg situation. So I'm going to rotate that down. I'll get the shin and rotate that up and kind of move it down into place and give it a bent leg look. Okay, then I'll have to move this heel up, and then the foot's not going to be rotated anymore. It's going to be straight now. So I'm going to rotate the toes to where that foot is flat. Okay, but I don't want his toes going through the floor. So I'll select the heel and the toes and move them up to where his toes are not going through the floor. Okay, and I kind of like the way that looks. That I might move the thigh up, and if you can always hide a layer, like I can hide this top thigh just by poking it right there under the eyeball there, and that way I can see the rear thigh and move it up more to where it needs to be. And I'm not going to worry too much. And you say, "Oh, that looks terrible," but when I show, well, actually, it does look terrible. Okay, yeah, I'm going to need to. Let's see, maybe move that up further and then select them both and move them down and over. Okay, and then when I show that, okay, that looks better. So again, I can scrub the timeline, and that rear leg is bent. Okay, kind of, all right, like that. All right, now a few more things I need to do. Remember, we built the ears so that they would react to Lucky walking. And also the head is going to move back and forth. It's going to rotate upwards. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these ear symbols and the head, because first thing, the entire head is going to rotate up. So I'm going to get the transform tool, move the rotation point to the neck, and rotate that head up a little, okay? So that, in between here and here, the head rotates up. But the ears are also going to move independently. I'm going to get the rotation tool for them and rotate them further up, like they're reacting to the body striking the ground and they're flapping up. So here we go, like that. Okay. Like so. So now if I go between 1 and I don't quite like that, I'll move it up, maybe rotate it out a little further. Okay, maybe up a little. Okay. Yeah, I don't quite like that. Okay. So let me move that up even more. Okay. Yeah, you can make these little adjustments as long as it looks good in between. The human eye is going to fill in the gaps. And so now, I believe we have finished the recoil pose. So we're halfway done. All right, so there's there's the contact and there's recoil. You can see the head, the ears, the tail react. You can see the arms sway out further. You can see the legs bend, the feet go flat. There we go. All right, now the third is going to be the passing pose. So I'm going to highlight all of frame 3 and do an F6 to create keyframes there. All right, so now I'm on frame 3. And we're going to create the passing phrase, or the passing pose. Now, and this one is a little odd because the arms are going to be straight and the legs are going to be, well, one of the legs is going to be straight, kind of like a stork. Okay. So I'm going to also the body is actually going to move up a little bit because as the leg straightens, his body is going to go up because here it's bent, and you can see that if it were to straighten, everything above the leg is going to rise up. So we have to reflect that, and so I need to have, with everything selected, only on frame 3. Make sure that only frame 3 is active. The first thing I'm going to do is bring everything up a little bit. So I'm going to nudge it upward with my arrow key. Just a little bit, not a ton, but you can see the guideline there. I've raised everything up a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, so that will reflect that he's raising his body upward. Okay. The head and the ears are going to rotate back down a little, and then again the ears will rotate down a bit more. Okay, so I can check the head. Okay, the head goes down, the ears go down a little bit. All right. Now the arms, I'm going to rotate them down to where they're straight by his side. And it looks odd because you think he's walking, his arms shouldn't be straight down by his side. But this is just a particular moment as the arms start to pass each other going in opposite directions that they're straight down. Okay. Let's see. The tail, I can rotate. All right, so as the body is rising, the tail's actually, oops, didn't mean to do that. The tail is actually going to rotate down a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to straighten this leg. So I'm going to select that thigh, rotate it down. Oops, I think I got the wrong thigh. Or no, let's see. It is the top thigh. Okay, so I will straighten it. Okay, and then I'll move the top shin to join it, and I'll move these feet pieces down to touch the guideline. Okay, I think I want to hide the top arm for a second because I want to make sure this top leg looks right. Let me zoom in a little bit. And I might move that down and maybe forward just a little. I'll get these pieces and move them forward just a little bit. In fact, we need to sort of be where the heel is more central. So I will move these forward. I'll move these pieces forward, but that leg has to be straight. That's the The important thing is that the leg be straight. Okay. Might need to straighten this a little more. It doesn't look, the shin needs to be a little straighter. Okay. Maybe move it forward a bit. Okay. Okay. All right, so we've got that leg straight. And then now, the back leg and foot are going to move forward. So I'm going to get the back, shin, thigh, toes, and heel. And I could try, might try rotating them first. I'll rotate from the heel there. Move it forward a little bit. And then make sure everything's okay, good. All right. And then this bend will be maybe a little bit more extreme. And the foot is going to bend or rotate and be straighter, up like that. Okay. I might even hide this top shin and thigh for a second and just make sure things look correct here. Let's see, let me get this, move it down. Okay, that looks better there. Okay, so I will now see how it looks. Okay, and I'll zoom out. And I think that my passing pose, well, it's almost complete. I think that this foot should actually be crossing more. It's too far back. So I'm going to highlight these three pieces, the shin and those, and rotate it up. Should have moved the rotation point. Let me move it to the knee. Rotate it a little more forward. And then actually I think get the back thigh and just move everything forward more. Yeah, because it needs to start passing. You need to start seeing that knee on this side. And let me rotate this back and then move it back. Yeah, okay, I need to start seeing that knee. All right, so here we go. Let's scrub the timeline. There we go. Okay, and you can see how the body has raised up, and now the passing is starting to happen. Okay, so now that is the completed passing pose. So we've got 3 out of 4 done. Okay, now we're going to do frame 4. So I'll highlight all of frame 4, hit the F6 key to make keyframes. Okay, and next will be the high point. All right, the final pose is called the high point, and this is where the character is the tallest because he's going to spring from this front toe there, from his front toes. So, okay, we've got keyframes on frame 4, and we're going to do again what we did last time. We're going to drag the pieces up above a little bit. So I've got all the pieces selected. I'm going to nudge them up again with the arrow key, even higher. Okay. All right, now the top arm, I'm going to rotate this forward. Okay. Let's see, maybe not quite that far, because it'll go further when we do the opposite frames. So here we go. I'll go about that far, and then I'll get the back. And if I can't touch it to get it, I'll use the layer. I can click on the layer back arm, and now I know I have the back arm, and I can rotate it backward, maybe to where I can just barely see it behind the tail there. That's about right, I think. Okay. All right, now the symbols of the top foot, I'm going to move them down to the guideline with the arrow keys, move them down, and then they're going to slide further back to where it may be more like this, to maybe about where maybe the front of the toes are lining up with the front of the hips there. So I've slid that back. Okay. And then I'm going to get the top shin and thigh and rotate them again from the hip here. I'll rotate them back because it's going to be fairly straight. Maybe about like that. In other words, it's not going to be bent. The knee will not be bent. And then, of course, this heel needs to rotate. So I guess right now I'm just going to rotate it from here. Rotate that heel up to meet the pant leg like that. Okay. So now he looks like he's pushing off. He looks like he's pushing off from that from the toes. And I can make little adjustments here. Click and move things with the arrow keys to make them look a little better. Okay. Move that back. There we go. Okay. Maybe move that, yes, up a little bit. That's too much. All right. That up. Maybe move this down like that. Okay, that's more like it. So I've got the leg pushing up now. All right. Let's see. The tail is going to go down some more because it's reacting in opposition to the body moving up. So just a little further down. Okay. All right. Now the back thigh. I may have to get it from here. Back thigh. That's going to rotate forward because this leg is passing forward, and so that knee is going to be further out, kind of like that. Okay, and then the shin or the back shin, and then the back toes and back heel. I'm going to rotate them down a little bit, and then move them. Just move. Oops. Rats. Okay. Sometimes you select stuff you don't mean to select, so you can hide things that are kind of in the way. I'm going to hide this top stuff here. Okay, so I'm going to select these and I'm going to move them forward to meet that knee like that. Okay, and then maybe start to rotate that. Yeah, well, again, I want to rotate it from the knee. Rotate that down a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to show the top leg and see how it looks. And okay, that's pretty good. I think I do want these a little higher, so I'm going to move those up and forward a little, like that. Okay. All right, so I think the everything's ready except for the head. I'm going to rotate the head and the ears. Again, I'll rotate them from the neck. Rotate this down again and reaction to the body pushing off, and then the ears I might rotate down just a tiny bit more. Okay. There we go. And so I can kind of scrub through this. There's pose 1, there's contact, recoil, passing, and high point. And I can just, scrub through the timeline, see if everything's kind of natural. And one thing that I see a problem, well, no, actually that's okay, because the blue line is not actually the floor. The blue line is where that top foot is resting. So here for a second I thought the rear foot was floating above the floor, but that actually doesn't represent the floor. It represents where the top foot rests. So everything seems to be okay. And so we have completed the first part of the walk cycle.